Outside of some of the hirings and firings this offseason, I think Jimbo Fisher hiring an offensive coordinator at Texas A&M might be one of the most surprising moves. I'm bringing on 3 coaching insider Jesse Simonton to talk. Jesse, Jimbo finally hired an OC. Why do you think he went with Bobby Petrino?
Well, he went with Bobby Petrino because there weren't very many other options. I mean, Jimbo Fisher's been calling plays since Will Smith was releasing Millennium. I mean, the last time he wasn't a primary play caller was 1999. So this is a big step. Like you said, I mean, him giving up those duties, hiring a legitimate offensive coordinator, but he didn't really have a bunch of options to pick from. A guy like Garrett Riley, had more freedom to go to a place like Clemson, whereas Jimbo's still going to have a lot of his fingerprints and that big thumb, and that Texas-sized ego that he has kind of centered around the deal. So Bobby Petrino is one of the few coaches in this industry that frankly probably isn't afraid to tell Jimbo to go stick it. And so it's an odd marriage. We'll see if it works out. But both of these guys obviously have deep track records, piloting very good offenses. It's just been a couple of years for each of them since we've actually seen that unfold on the field.
Yeah, and Petrino's scheme, it's kind of similar to what Jimbo Fisher already runs. So what changes do you think he'll make to kind of awaken this archaic passing offense?
Well, frankly, I think that's kind of what we're waiting to see this spring. I mean, the Jimbo Fisher's got this, Cheesecake Factory playbook, but it's been the same stale kind of plate on the menu for the last decade since he's had Jameis. And so what can Bobby Petrino do? I think the number one thing, his primary goal this spring is how to get more explosive plays, how to put more tempo in an offense that's been too slow, too complicated. Since Jimbo's been at Texas A&M, the Aggies have ranked 97th or worse in tempo, so that's plays per game. That's just not going to cut it in today's modern football. And they've also been extremely poor at generating explosiveness. This is a guy, they had Evan Stewart, a 5-star wide receiver who actually led the SEC versus conference foes in receptions a year ago, but he only averaged 12 yards a catch. And that's just, you can't consistently try to move the chains 4 and 8 yards. You got to create those layups. That's what Ryan Day does. That's what Lincoln Riley does. That's what Todd Monken did at Georgia. All those guys are running different schemes, different than what Jimbo Fisher's doing, but they have found ways to get their playmakers the ball in space, and that's just something that hasn't happened enough in College Station.
Texas A&M has recruited phenomenally under Jimbo Fisher, but they've also suffered some attrition in the transfer portal. So how do you think Bobby Petrino will get the most out of the personnel at Texas A&M?
Well, the good news for Bobby Petrino is he has, again, like you said, a lot to work with. Connor Wegman is nothing like Lamar Jackson, but Bobby Petrino has worked with all manners of quarterbacks from his time, both in the NFL and in college football. And so I think putting, those pieces around Connor Wegman is going to be important. We mentioned Evan Stewart, but getting a guy like Aniyah Smith to come back to school, most thought he was headed to the NFL, but then he gets, he hurts his knee, comes back. I mean, he's going to be one of the more kind of versatile, Swiss Army knife players in the SEC next fall. You got a guy like 5-star Reuben Owens, a big recruit who's going to kind of replace Devin Achane at tailback. And so it's not a lack of talent at Texas A&M. It's putting these guys in positions to succeed. We'll see if this marriage works. It's a strange bedfellows. The chemistry, the cohesion, I'm not sure. But again, these guys both have deep track records. And if Bobby Petrino and Jimbo Fisher can't get it done collectively, then I'm not sure it's going to happen.
Yeah, everybody's going to have their eyes on what's going on in College Station between these two. So my question to you, Jesse, is do you think Bobby Petrino will ultimately succeed in reviving the Texas A&M offense?
I could see it working for a year. And I think in Bobby Petrino's mind, he comes in 2023, he makes it happen with Connor Wegman and these guys that we're talking about, and then he parlays that to bounce back into an FBS head coaching job. So I do not see this as being some sort of long-term answer for Jimbo Fisher, but perhaps it could be a little short-term Band-Aid that at least gets them back on track next fall.
Well, it sounds like maybe a short-term win-win for both sides on this.
Yeah, but again, it still has, blow-up potential. So I get it. It'll be fascinating to watch however this unfolds.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that when it's 3rd and 7 and the offense has been struggling, it's kind of the end of the third quarter, do you believe that Jimbo Fisher is going to have his hands off the offense and just let Bobby Petrino go?
Oh, no. And again, that's going to be everyone's going to be waiting for that. And when the leaks happen that Jimbo took over play calling duties, we've seen this story before. It happened with Gus Malzahn, where he gave up play calling duties to a guy like Chip Lindsey. And then, behold, in one of these third quarters, like you're talking about against a Georgia or Alabama, suddenly Gus is calling the plays again. And so it would surprise no one if Fisher ultimately takes over. But again, Bobby Petrino is just as stubborn SOB as Jimbo Fisher. And so he's one of the few guys that, will give it right back to Jimbo. So how it all plays out, fascinating. I think that's we can agree on that for sure.
Yeah, we can. All right, Jesse, thanks for stopping by Coach's Corner today. Thank you for watching. Make sure you smash that subscribe button for me. And remember to check out all the videos on the On3 YouTube page.